and welcome to The Natural View. I'm Maggie Jacko. I'm the content director of WholeFoods Magazine, and my co-host is Todd Pauley of 24 Stories Marketing. Hi, Todd.
Hey, Maggie, good to see you.
Good to see you, too. We have a special guest today. I'm honored to welcome Alicia Kasch. She is the Vice President of RIBUS. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Great to have you here. We're continuing a conversation that we actually started in our July print and digital issue of WholeFoods Magazine. So that's available now. But in that issue, we put a spotlight on just some outstanding leaders and innovators in the natural products industry. And you actually graced our cover. So that is something really to check out. And we had a great feature in there where you talked about the company a little bit. And today we want to take a deeper dive and get to know you a little bit better. So let's dive in. So you come from a third generation family business, which is so cool. You know, I'm with a family business as well, and I love the backstory of all of that. So can you just talk to us a little bit about what it was like growing up around the company and how that has influenced your leadership philosophy, and any stories or little insights you can share with us?
Oh, now you want to know the good stuff.
Yeah.
No, honestly, so RIBUS started when I was almost 5. So most of my life, and definitely most of my memories, RIBUS has always been there, almost like a younger sibling. When we started, my dad, Steve, actually started RIBUS in our basement. So when I was practicing for the 1996 Olympics, I was determined I was going to be a gymnast, and I'm practicing handsprings upstairs. He's trying to be a legitimate business. So sorry, Dad. Probably didn't help those calls. But yeah, RIBUS was always there. The other two founders, my grandfather, Jim, and a food scientist that he actually went to church with, they'd come in town, they'd make a mess in the kitchen, they'd bake cakes, they'd make weird rice milk. I had no idea what they were doing. I saw a lot of that hard work, but I didn't see more than I did. So, I mean, yes, I saw them making cakes in the kitchen. I didn't know why. I didn't know that they were pitching it to Safeway and ultimately approved it in Safeway, and it was in all their chocolate cakes. We would take, trips up to the FedEx at the airport because that was the last one out for the day. I didn't know what we were doing. We were taking the cakes. We were receiving the cakes. We were sending samples. So a lot of what I'm still doing now, I saw at a very grassroots level 30 years ago. What stories can I tell? So in high school, people would ask, what do your parents do? And I was like, oh, my mom is an accountant, and, my dad works for the government. I can't talk about it. With Boeing in St. Louis, I guess enough people believed that they wouldn't ask questions because I had no idea what RIBUS was. I didn't know what it did. Dad would go on trips, he would work, and it was something to do with rice. So now kind of working with him and alongside him the past 8.5 years, now everything that he was doing really makes sense. And I understand, that's why you were going to Anaheim every spring break for Expo West. That's why you would go, Chicago or New Orleans or wherever IFT was. So it's really cool kind of seeing this third chapter, I guess, of RIBUS, 32 years, almost 33 years, and everywhere it's been, but kind of where we're going next too.
Yeah, well, let's dive into a little bit of the business side of where you're going. I'm curious, as you entered the company, what have been some of your main priorities for the company, and then where do you envision it going here as you're taking you've taken an active role, and now you're seeing it from how it grew up, but I'm sure you're also thinking about where it's going in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally wanted to be a psychologist. I was not going to work for RIBUS. Then I got kind of distracted by marketing and all of the things that advertising could do. So I pursued that and wasn't really planning on coming to work for RIBUS right out of school. But Steve and I were talking about it. I call him Steve at work. I'm very aware that I'm the daughter, but he's Steve at work. And he was like, if you want to come work for me, that's fine. But what are you going to bring to the party? And so we kind of say that like it's a potluck. You're not going to show up empty-handed. What are you bringing that we don't already have? So when I joined RIBUS in 2017, I joined as the global account manager. We are a small company. We don't have a true sales department, but we use brokers and distributors as our external sales force. So being a project manager, just who I am, I was that liaison between RIBUS and the sales force. So training on new projects or, following up on leads and conversations from trade shows. I was kind of project managing the sales team around the world. Did that for 5 years. And then as Steve wanted to kind of focus on bigger projects and different types of things, I said, let me take a stab at it. I'll handle some of the day-to-day. So I came back from maternity leave as vice president. That was wild timing. I don't know if I'd do it again. But it was really cool. So priorities then was kind of seeing projects through and progressing them. Now I really see my focus as problem solving and planning. That's who I am as a person. That's kind of where I think I'm good at it. So my job kind of boils down to those two things. If I can plan for where we want to go and then trust the team to execute on those priorities or those initiatives and then solve problems as they come up. We really try to embody that with the whole team. But sometimes once they come to my desk, they're bigger problems or more timely or, all hands on deck type of situation. So professional firefighter, chaos coordinator, whatever you want to call it. I'm a problem solver and a planner.
Well, I was going to ask, it's paying off, right? Because you've achieved record sales, you're growing into new markets, so things are going well. I was going to ask you to outline some kind of the key strategies behind the success, which you kind of just did. But anything you want to expand on there?
Yeah. So with the salespeople, it's interesting, right? So I was managing salespeople even though I've never been in sales. And it's like, how do you do that if you don't know what I'm doing? How can you train me on that? I think that's where that problem-solving mentality really came in because a lot of companies maybe will train their salespeople. Here's what I sell. I can help you. I can save you more money. I can do this. Here's my line card. What product do you want? We kind of flip that on its head. So rather than talking points, we have listening points. So it's really going in and saying, what are you working on? What are your initiatives? What are current production problems? What does marketing really want you to do? Are there certain claims or certain ingredients that you're trying to get rid of? Or talk to the operators. What problems are you having on the line? Is it a sticky ingredient? Is it, humidity control 6 months out of the year? Is it, somebody doesn't want any excipients at all because they want to be 100% organic. Okay, those are the keywords and the clues that we're waiting for. That we can then jump in and say, okay, you have a sticky active. Is it hygroscopic or is it oily? What's going on? Can we isolate that? Can we solve those problems? So it really is more listening points than talking points, which at a human level, everyone wants their problem to be heard and understood and to be solved. So if we can just boil it down to the ingredients solve problems, the people solve problems, it's a good way, I think, to work as a company and also build that trust and relationship within the industry.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let's shift a little bit here and let's talk specifically about clean label. I know that RIBUS is an innovator there, and I'm wondering, as you help brands kind of bridge the gap between clean label functionality and then also performance functionality in the products, can you talk about some of the specific innovations there that you've come up with to help them achieve that and be a true partner as far as clean label goes?
Yeah. So ultimately, if the products don't work, who cares what it's labeled as?
Right.
So, it has to work. The functionality has to be there. And that's really where we start with a lot of people because they'll say, oh, it's an alternative to silicon dioxide. It's the exact same. No, it's a similar functionality. It is, if you're making a fruit salad and you sub out apples for oranges, it's still a fruit salad, but it's a different fruit. So it depends on what you're trying to solve and what functionality you need. Most of our products are a one-to-one alternative, but maybe there's an extra step. Maybe there's something, a special pre-blend that you have to do. Maybe you have to isolate the most problematic ingredient. So it's not identical because it wasn't created in a lab. There's always natural variation with anything plant-based. So really educating the prospect or customer, then setting their expectations realistically that it's not the exact same thing. The color is a little bit different. So again, it's plant-based. It's a light brown product. People see it and say maybe, I can't make a white tablet with a brown ingredient. Well, you can because the usage is low. And if that's a concern, we can work with them to use as little as possible so that they still can get what the consumer sees as a white tablet. So we really, really like to be involved in the testing process to make sure that one, expectations are set, but two, that the product works the way it needs to. I hate hearing, oh yeah, it didn't work. We tried that 2 years ago. It didn't work. And it's like, if it's not working, please reach out. Like, we have internal technical support. We're a member of the Clean Label Alliance. So the Clean Label Alliance, in addition to RIBUS's support, we want to help solve the problem with you because maybe it's not the right ingredient. Most of the time, we do have something that will work, but occasionally we'll be honest and say, maybe we're not it right now. Keep us in mind. We have a small portfolio, but we have a very intentional portfolio. So again, we don't want to be everything to everybody because then we're nobody, then we're nothing. So if we're really intentional and put out good quality ingredients that work, then we can replace the labels. If you go in looking for labels first and not truly solving the problem, it's probably not going to work long term.
I wanted to ask you about another great affiliation that you have, and that is with Women in Nutraceuticals, WIN, which I'm a member of as well. And, as a woman leading the next generation, I wanted to talk a little bit about mentorship, recruitment, culture at RIBUS, and how you're kind of tailoring it for that next generation and lifting up. And as we know, WIN, yes, it's women in nutraceuticals, but it's really about everybody and kind of lifting up the collective. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on some of that and your strategies at RIBUS.
Yeah, WIN is amazing. Been a member over there for 3 years and really consciously working on plugging into that network because all of the monthly meetups that they have, it's just such a powerful, amazing, smart group of men and women that really care about doing the right thing in the industry. So really, really happy that is a thing and a tool and that they do so many events. As far as RIBUS and the culture and kind of how I'm trying to respect what it's been, but kind of evolve with it. And I'm a millennial. Gen Z is completely different. We still have, baby boomers and Gen X in the workforce. So there's very, very different requirements, demands, just preferences. Half of our team is remote and the other half is all at the production facility in Nevada. So that's also different. I'm trying to help nurture this culture, but I'm not physically there. Half of my team isn't there. So really trying to look at my background as an advertising industry, and that is really, really culture focused. Whether it's, the pool tables or beanbag chairs or video games or whatever, it's almost like a frat house, but you work really hard too. We're not going there. So no, don't worry, Steve, if you're listening, we're not getting pool tables for the break room. But trying to figure out, how do we get to know each other as people so that we like being together and working together and also respect each other for who and what we are. I'm going to name drop here. Lori Van Gels, she's our director of strategic communication. She and I actually met over 10 years ago at an ad agency. So both of us having that shared knowledge and feeling of what that inclusive culture was, we're trying to pull that into RIBUS. From a recruiting standpoint, one thing that we've done is look at DISC analysis and personalities and really look, who is this person intrinsically at their core? Not work, not what's on a resume, but who are you at your most comfortable, and how do you show up under stress? Because we all know there is stress at work from time to time. And with a small company, every person, but every personality makes a huge difference. So if we really can find the right person for the role that is naturally suited to do what that position needs, and then going back to the potluck, what are you bringing to the party? We've shown, we are resilient through COVID, supply chain fragility since COVID. We've proven that we can do it, but who's going to make us better? Like, how do we shave 3 seconds off our best time? How can we be more efficient, more reliable, a better supplier and a better part of the industry as a whole?
Yeah, that's great. You touched on some of the work life you experienced before coming to RIBUS, right, in the marketing, communications, advertising field. So I think it's really important too, as you stepped into a family business, a small business in some respects, that you had that experience beforehand, right? So you saw the big wide world of, advertising and like pool tables in the break room and kind of that, and you're bringing some of that culture in. And I'm wondering, because you have both experiences, and then you look at the natural products industry and maybe even your own company, as leaders start to emerge, or as you encounter other leaders, whether it's through WIN or wherever else, what advice might you have for them in terms of, navigating all of that to become the best leader that you possibly can?
Yeah, this is something I've been working on. Probably, like I said earlier, I'm very aware that I'm third generation. And honestly, the first couple of shows, first couple of months at work, I didn't want anybody to know that I was Steve's daughter, because I didn't want people to look at me as, oh, she only got this job because, she's the daughter. I've seen Tommy Boy. I love that movie so much. It's like shaped who I am as a person. Like, I don't want to be Tommy Boy. So one thing I've really been working on is not comparing myself to anyone else. When I first came onto RIBUS, I didn't necessarily want people to know I was Steve's daughter, because I didn't think that I could live up to who and what he was and how he built RIBUS to that point. And I still can't, but I don't necessarily want to. We're different. And I think that's good. And we balance each other out in a really, really powerful way. So I think for, I'm going to say young leaders, but just anybody, comparison is the thief of joy. You can admire things, you can be inspired by people and what they do, but don't compare yourself, because you're never going to be that. And if you do somehow get to their level, you've probably lost a lot of who and what made you special to get to that point. So I'm really focusing on, being authentically me, being scared and being uncomfortable, or learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable is kind of my mantra right now. And things like this, I never would have signed up for this a year ago. Actually, it was almost a year ago that Heather and I agreed to do this last July. And I'm like, what am I doing? The past, 11 months, I was like, I can't believe I agreed to do that. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to wear? Am I going to embarrass everybody? But, you have to step outside of your comfort zone and try new things. And I think being honest and being authentic, that's what makes people remember you and maybe like you and maybe want to work with you, not trying to be a cookie cutter or exactly like the person who had the role before you, or somebody that you see on social media that most of it may not be true anyway. You have to be who and what you are.
Oh, I so agree with that. And you mentioned Tommy Boy, and I know you kind of mentioned it as a joke, but it's like you see when he finally became and trusted who he was. Yes. So life lesson for everybody who hasn't seen
Exactly. Watch Tommy Boy, find it online. It is a gem.
Kind of going a little deeper into your brain, can you give us like how you define success, and especially like balancing your own aspirations from the young girl training to be a gymnast,
right?
Balancing that with the legacy of your family and lifting up the company?
Well, spoiler alert, I'm not an Olympic gymnast. Didn't even go past like 10 years old, but that's okay. I haven't really defined success, and I'm kind of trying to just enjoy the journey. Getting to work with my dad has been amazing. We've been to probably 10 to 12 countries together over the last 8 years. I remember I was newly pregnant with my son, and we did 2.5 weeks in Australia and New Zealand. And just getting to do that, like, one, with a parent is cool, but also to watch him in his element and in the sales zone was so amazing. And just getting to see that totally different side of my dad, and really, that's Steve, not dad. That's all been really, really powerful. So just trying to enjoy the journey. I think you have to celebrate the little wins, because when it does get hard, if you don't have something recent to look back at to say, like, okay, this is working. Yes, this is hard, but this just happened, or this was a win, or, we were just in Starbucks a few months ago in one of their spring drinks. That was awesome. That was that little, literally, it was a cherry blossom drink. So that was the cherry on top of, for the team. We're still working through some supply chain fragility, as I call it, getting our own facility up and running. So there have been long weeks, long months, but those little wins to see, like, yes, this is working. I think those are the successes that we have to focus on. From a family and legacy standpoint, I joke, I just want Steve, Dad, to be proud of me. I know he is. I am very proud of RIBUS. And I'll say all the time, like, it's not personal, it's strictly business, quoting The Godfather. But for me, it is also very personal. I've seen the hard work and 33 years of sacrifice and work and wins that went into it. I'm not going to mess this up. like that's not going to happen on my watch. I want to make this bigger and better. And, if we just stay where we are right now, from sales, financial standpoint, whatever, I'm still okay with that, because we're still making a difference. And if we have people that are proud to work for us and want to work with us, and customers that are proud to do business with us, that's success.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you've seen RIBUS through so many times of transition, growth, expansion, innovation, and I'm wondering, as you think back over some of those moments, what's one of the most challenging decisions you've had to make, in your process of growing with the company, and what key takeaways or lessons did you learn from it as a leader?
I think every decision feels really big in the moment. I think looking back, the hardest ones were when it directly affects someone else's life or livelihood. Whether it's an employee that it didn't work out, or somebody left us that, they were a really great asset to the team. Those, I think, stick with me longer than a contract manufacturer, or switching to a different supplier, or a packaging change, or whatever that may be. I think when it's really human and does become personal, that hits me harder. I think that it really is how you react to situations, because there will always be decisions, there will always be moves that are maybe hard to make. You can't be afraid to ruffle some feathers. If it's what's right for the business, it needs to be done. That's when I think, being a real person and being honest, and maybe sharing, this is a really hard decision, and, we're still conflicted on it, but we believe this is the right thing to do. I think nothing's worse than being an employee that you're just kept in the dark. So we try and share as much as we can with our team, so that they know what's on the horizon. We do annual planning meetings, obviously, each year. But we want everyone to know, what are the goals? What are the sales goals? Even if that doesn't directly affect manufacturing, if you know that your colleague is responsible for 35% growth, that does, come across your desk too. Like, we're all in this together. And it's not to put the pressure on, but it's that shared collective goal that is like, I need you to do your part so that I can do my part. And then at the end of the day, when we succeed, we're all proud of it, because we all put our fingerprints on it.
Love that. Let's just shift gears a little bit. We're talking about kind of expanding our horizons a lot here, knowledge. What's one book or a resource or a podcast that you've encountered that has made an impact on you, something you might recommend to other people as they're kind of on their journey in the industry or just in life?
Yeah. I will be very honest. I have two young kids at home. So most of the time, if I have peace and quiet, I don't even turn the radio on. I'm just driving around in silence. But if it's a long drive, there is a local St. Louis marketing agency called Gorilla 76 that they have a podcast series. They have one for it's called the manufacturing marketer, the manufacturing employer, and the manufacturing executive. And they're all obviously geared at different topics. But even though it's not food manufacturing, the problems and the situations and the suggestions are the same. So I always feel really inspired and like come away with new ideas after listening to that. So thank you, Gorilla 76. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, love her. I follow her closely on social media. She is just so honest about like how she got to where she is, and she'll call them failures or, you know, slips, whatever. But she's like, this is my story and this is real. And, you know, I paid my friends to wear Spanx t-shirts. Like, she's honest about that. And I think that's really amazing. And I aspire to be, you know, her level of success. It's not going to be Spanx and it's not going to be, you know, a Target nationwide. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I just appreciate her honesty and authenticity. Brene Brown, she's kind of the OG. She's wonderful. We all know that. But really just, I try to find inspiration everywhere. If you look for it, you'll never find it. But if you just kind of let it hit you in the face when it does and go with it, that's kind of what I've been trying to do. You know, my kids, watching them and see what catches their eye, where maybe it's something that I've seen for years and then they notice it and I'm like, okay, that is pretty cool. Like, weirdly enough to say this, but you mentioned it earlier, being on the cover of the WholeFoods Magazine, that's something I would never do. But I realized my daughter had never seen a magazine. So the first one she saw, she's almost 3. The first one she saw, she's like, Mommy's on a book. And I'm like, Mommy is on a book. Like, that's so weird, but that's cool. So yeah, like trying to be inspired by their reactions sometimes. But also, yeah, be comfortable being uncomfortable and just sometimes trust your gut. If it's got you this far, it's probably, you know, conditioned, aligned well. Just trust your gut and do what you think is right. Always do the right thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm wondering, you know, as we kind of wrap up here, if we can look to the future a bit. You've been in the industry a long time. You've seen a lot of trends come and go, I'm sure. And I'm wondering what you're seeing now and as far as trends and how that might shape your vision for the company, you know, to, you know, next 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be. How are you thinking about some of those developments?
The biggest trend right now, I'm going to say, being an ingredient manufacturer, we're a little bit removed from the consumer. I know we talk about clean label as an industry a lot, but the consumer never talks about clean label. They might talk about clean eating, but that's not necessarily the same thing. So really looking at industry trends, I'm going to say the one that is most relevant to us right now is science-backed ingredients. All of our ingredients are patent protected. So that was always, I don't want to say good enough, but kind of good enough. Now, I don't know if it's millennials and, you know, Gen Z saying, prove it. Like, you're saying it's good, prove that it's good. But every brand is looking at quality so stringently and needing the proof, which I think is wonderful. So where we may not have traditionally had, you know, scientific articles or studies about our ingredients, we're really leaning into that. And we are proving that, you know, our products are patented, but the quality is also there. And if we say it's 100% rice hulls, it's 100% rice hulls. And here's a study to back it up. Because you can always do a new process. You can always have new suppliers, but like that quality, if it's not right, we're not going to sell it. So we're very strict about what we sell because we never want to put our customers or the end consumer at risk, whether it's certifications or allergens or whatever it may be. Like, we want to be a value add, not a liability. So we're really leaning into quality and science back and doing some of those studies to really prove who and what we are.
Yeah.
And I know as more comes, you'll keep us informed at WholeFoods Magazine, and we'll keep sharing the news.
Yes, more products on the horizon. One coming out at IFT in a few weeks, so not sure when this is going to air, but one at IFT and then probably another at Supply Side West. So I would love to be back and talk about those once I can. But yes, always up to something over at RIBUS.
And we love it. Well, we will spread the word when you're ready to.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. So many great insights. I love hearing, people's stories, and especially these generational companies, and just carrying it on. It's so beautiful, such a beautiful thing. So congratulations to you on all the success, and you'll keep us posted.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks very much.